Stan Pines is ultimately a fundamentally different character than the one we presume him to be at the beginning of the series. Part of this is genuine, actual character development. Part of this is simply a shift in our perceptions of Stan. We might suspect at first that he does have a kinder heart than he initially appears, but the deep tragedy and pathos of his character is not immediately made apparent, nor is the strength and ultimate heroism that he demonstrates in escaping from that tragedy, in confronting it, and ultimately, truly, sincerely demonstrating his merit. The first archetype that comes to mind when one thinks about Stan is the miser. This is a very long-standing archetype. I am reading a play right now by the Roman playwright Plautus that is directly about a miser. This play inspired one of the great plays of the French playwright Molière. Perhaps more familiar to some of you, Dickens was very, very familiar with misers as an archetype, and he used them consistently throughout his work. The most famous depiction of a miser is in the Christmas Carol, with the wonderfully named Ebenezer Scrooge. You probably know the story of the Christmas Carol. Grumpy, greedy, selfish man refuses to celebrate Christmas or care about the goodwill and fellowship that are at the heart of the season, and instead just sits on his enormous pile of money and refuses to give any to the poor and needy. In his sleep on Christmas Eve, he is basically frightened out of his avarice by the appearance of three ghosts: Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future. He reforms and becomes an upstanding, selfless citizen by the end. It's a very good story, and it has endured because of its sheer primeval appeal. It is one of the first things people think of when they think of Christmas and Christmas media. It captures something about the season that endures even as the celebration is not as universally Christian as it once was. The spirit of selflessness, fellowship, goodwill to all men, overcoming egotism and avarice. But it's also not Dickens' only depictions of misers. He has a kind of miser character in Our Mutual Friend named Mr. Boffin, a truly Dickensian name. Boffin comes into a immense degree of wealth, and it seems to corrupt him, and he seems to become a miser. But in reality, he is only play acting. He's only pretending to be a miser to teach a lesson to his selfish, arrogant, but ultimately good-hearted surrogate daughter, Bella. And it works. His charade shakes her out of her worst qualities. And this is perhaps a bit more similar to Stan. It's not that his love of money is completely feigned. It's real enough. But to the extent that it is real, it comes from genuine psychological unease and uncertainty. And it is also something he plays up and exaggerates in order to hide his true intentions, which are fundamentally selfless. He stays in Gravity Falls for decades, trying to bring back his brother whom he feels guilty about because circumstances led to him kind of inadvertently pushing his brother into the interdimensional warp that his brother created. Stan does deeply care about money. He's never had a lot of it throughout his life, and he is constantly looked down upon and constantly criticized by basically everyone he has come into contact with. He is poor for most of his life, but more than that, he is unloved. One gets the feeling watching his backstory episode in The Tale of Two Stans that this degree of a precarious existence would be acceptable to him if only he had someone who really cared about him, but he doesn't. His parents do not value him. They only care about money, profit, success. They are very shallow, materialistic, self-aggrandizing people, especially his father. They only care about the intelligence of his brother, Stan Ford, because he believes, Stan's father believes that that brain will make them rich. He makes the correlation that a lot of rather unknowledgeable people make between wealth and intelligence. Stan Ford, for all his intelligence, does not really seem to care much about money making, and he takes all the grant money he receives to live in this cabin in the dark woods in Gravity Falls, researching strange creatures, strange anomalies. Stan, however, not only does not have money, he does not have a lot of traditional intelligence. He does not have book smarts. His teachers do not seem to respect him. The principal does not seem to respect him. His brother, while initially caring for him, does not really have a lot of respect for his intellect either, and ultimately views him as a kind of parasite trying to drag him back to a life he doesn't want to be in, especially after Stanley accidentally destroys his perpetual motion machine. So it's a difficult process for Stanley to endure. He cannot magically summon up more book smarts. But what he can do is pursue money, pursue wealth. He does this as a kind of retribution against his parents to demonstrate that, yes, he can make it. That they greatly underestimated him. But he also does it because that's one thing he feels that he can do kind of well. His inventions are kind of scammy. But he is good at talking to people. He is very sociable. He's good at getting people to believe him. In sales, this doesn't end up working because he sells people products that are fundamentally bad, and they eventually run him out of town, literally, causing him to constantly change his name. And when he reaches Gravity Falls, although he only takes possession of the Mystery Shack because of what happened to Stanford, he is ecstatic because he finally finds a job that he's good at. He has the chance to dupe people, to trick them, with his fast talking and his bizarre, wild, extravagant assertions, and have it actually work. And it does work. And he does, in fact, acquire quite a bit of money. He seems to be quite successful for the first time in his life. Like a miser, he does not seem to really want to spend a lot of this money, but unlike a miser, he uses this money in a very selfless way. He dedicates a lot of time to trying to do whatever he can to bring back his brother, and he's willing to spend to that end at least. This is difficult for Stan because he does not have his brother's book smarts. He's trying to desperately figure out a bunch of machines. He does not have the intelligence and the background to use. He just kind of figures it out through sheer guile and determination. And that's who Stan is. He is someone who is in some ways deeply guarded. And this is coming more to the actual character development he goes through. A lot of what I've been talking about so far is an issue of perception. Stan is, in fact, not what he seems, to use the title of the show's best episode, arguably. And that's true in many ways. The kids initially underestimate him. They perceive him as being what he claims to be, someone who's obsessed with money and who has no interest in the supernatural in Gravity Falls. This caused a lot of tension between him and Dipper. But in fact, Stan of course knows what's happening in Gravity Falls. He knows more than probably anyone else other than his brother, because he has studied it for so long. But he's genuinely guarded. He does not want to be hurt. He uses a lot of sarcasm and this persona as this amoral, money-hungry miser as a defense mechanism. He is reluctant to be vulnerable for understandable reasons, considering how often he has been abandoned and neglected and berated for one thing or another. He is not very often respected, and yet he is able to truly love the kids. He truly cares about them, and he becomes his best self for them. He demonstrates a real level of heroic commitment. He demonstrates a kind of selfless devotion to his brother, to the kids, and to the town as a whole. The mind erasure that he undergoes in the season finale, or the series finale, might not be permanent. It might go away pretty quickly, which I find a little disappointing, but it works nonetheless as a kind of threshold, a kind of purification. When Stan wakes up from that in the series finale, something has been erased, that being all the shame and humiliation that he has faced in the past and the guardedness that comes with it. He's ready to open up. He's ready to start over. In a sense, he is finally a free man in the true and profound sense of that term. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Gravity Falls. It's a great show. Who's your favorite character? I'm really interested to know. Take care, everyone. Adios, comrades.